And that's where the story began. Just 1 minute. Then, of course, I knew about the legendary Colonel Narinder Bull Kumar. He's here, he's just arrived. You can see him on the right-hand side top corner with the then Army Chief General T.N. Raina on the top corner, explaining to him the intricacies or why he needed to go to Siachen in 1978. Not in 1984, not in 1981, but in 1978. So he fished out those photographs. I persuaded him to bring out this photograph on in the middle where he's bearded and really looks like a man who's a mountaineer, has spent all his time climbing the mountains. And on the right-hand side corner is legendary Colonel Bull Kumar, who's sitting here. I photographed him in his house with his pickaxe behind him hanging on the wall there. The man on the left is Captain Sanjay Kulkarni on the top, young Captain Sanjay Kulkarni of 4 Kumaon, now Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni in the blue shirt, Chief of Staff, Eastern Command, right now, serving Lieutenant General. And again, very fortunate to have met him and heard his story firsthand, recorded it, and it's there all in the book. So that's where I got down to, the book started gathering steam really, after getting these stories. Then as the word spread, I spoke to some people who I knew, and the young man on the left-hand corner is Colonel, then Captain Gopal Karunakaran. He is also here, of 5 Kumaon. He gave this photograph and a story of his, which he will tell us what the story is, and photographs from his time, from his album. And on the right-hand side, people from the Air Force who did a fantastic feat in June 1990 of recovering a stranded cheetah helicopter at Sonam at 21,000 feet, which they changed the engine there. And that team, you can see up there on the glacier, and of course down below, they were celebrating bringing back that helicopter safely, recovering it from that highest post on Siachen, and then celebrating it on the base camp. Unfortunately, Air Commodore Anil Sinha, who I think works, if I'm not mistaken, with Pavanans right now. He's away on election duty in Madhya Pradesh, so he couldn't come. I wanted him to narrate the story of how they recovered this helicopter from there. So the information trickle, which was initially very hard to come by, actually turned into a torrent. And then I had difficulty in, the hard part came in selecting the photographs and selecting the stories, sifting them from what I was getting and putting them together coherently. This is the photograph on the left-hand side. You'll see the recovered photograph, the helicopter, which was stranded on Sonam for about 2 weeks. And there's a story here. The Sikh Heli troops, which were posted on that time, sir, your Paltan, General Malik, they did a fantastic job. When the helicopter got stranded there, it couldn't take off. They first built a snow wall so that the Pakistanis couldn't see the helicopter. They were just about 3,000 meters or 3 kilometers away, but they could see the helicopter if the snow wall wasn't there. And then they, on their own, they took out the rotors. They didn't know how the rotors actually have to be taken out. They didn't know mechanically, but they did that and kept the helicopter safe. When the helicopter was repaired, when a new engine was flown in there, the crane broke because of high intensity cold. So these boys there, the hardy boys of Sikh Heli, actually lifted this engine which had been flown there and put it up there to help the crew which had walked up again to change that engine there. So there are hundreds of such stories. You can see the soldiers here who are talking. I mean, they will give you stories. There are enough stories about it. And then sifting through the photographs. Now, everyone who was there and who knew somebody who was there came through with photographs and stories. Black and white photographs came through. The Army headquarters, the Air Force headquarters, they all helped in whatever way they could. So these fantastic photographs, can you imagine this photograph on the left-hand side? I have not been able to use it in the book because there are better photographs than this. And therefore, that was the harder part. But again, Mr. Gopal and Jyoti, who's the team member of the publishers, they helped me sift through it. There's Raj, who did the layout for the book. Then came the icing on the cake, if you may. I'm sorry, this is an inappropriate word to use, but there's a story here. The Army Medical Corps came forward and said, we have done some work there and we have done some studies there. They gave an example of this man, Nima Norbu, who is a porter. He was stuck in a crevasse for 25 hours. Any other man, any other human being would have died. He lost 3 limbs. They recovered him after 25 hours. And the army, with the help of the doctors, army doctors, and the artificial limb center and all that, has given him 3 limbs back. So he now walks on his own and sits in a telephone booth and tries to earn his livelihood. That's the Indian Army, the Indian Armed Forces for you. So he is back and recovering. There is a similar story of another officer who developed gangrene in his body, lost 3 limbs, but they recovered him. They treated him in the MH and finally in Pune. And now he's promoted recently as a lieutenant colonel. He's serving on a desk job in the Indian Army. That's again the greatness of Indian Army, that people still come back. I have been extremely fortunate, as I said, people came forward. General Nanavati, who was a brigade commander there, later Northern Army commander, General Katoch, who is sitting here, who had commanded the brigade during Kargil in 1999, AVM Manmohan Bahadur, who was the first one to land in 1978 on Siachen as a young rookie helicopter pilot. Unfortunately, he's away in Turkey on a seminar. He couldn't come. Air Commodore Sinha, I have mentioned. Captain Joseph Samuel, who was an Aero P officer in 84, co-founder of Deccan Aviation. He came forward and gave stories. I've spoken about my friend Gopal Karunakaran. Captain Ramarao, who gave me those photographs of the stranded helicopter, who now works with the Tatas in Jamshedpur. Danveer Singh, I'm hoping, will come. He's again a Sikh officer who was posted there. He shared his photographs and stories. So many of these people came forward. But there was all-round help. And again, I'm extremely fortunate. General Malik not only agreed to write the foreword at just one email of mine request. Mr. Pathasarthi has always been a great support. My previous book, he was the one who had inaugurated and launched on Sri Lanka. And again, he's come without any fuss, without any prodding really. Many serving officers who can't be named, who can't be quoted, have helped in various ways. I can quote one of them now. He was serving, but now he's retired, Lieutenant General Vinod Bhatia, who was DGMO. Extremely helpful. Indian Army, as I mentioned, gave so much help and so much support in terms of details, stories, dates, getting the regiments and the ranks right. Indian Air Force, as I mentioned, several photographs you will see in this picture. Army Medical Corps gave out the entire study that they've done of a battalion, a Grenadiers battalion, which has a mixed composition of Muslims, Jats and Rajputs. They have done a 2-year study on how different people of different genetic disposition react to going up to those inhospitable areas and coming back. So they did a study. They shared that with me. Very generous of them. Bloomsbury team, as I said, held my hand. I kept troubling them. But over and above all that, it's my family which has been a great support. I finished this book from conception to printing in less than 6 months. And had it not been for my wife, Neha, who put up with my irritating habit of waking up at 4 a.m. and banging my keyboard in our bedroom every day of these last 6 months, this book wouldn't have been possible. So, great thanks to her. And both our children, who are now in their 20s, are like my old news editors, who constantly ask uncomfortable questions, who keep asking, when are you finishing? Why is this like this? Why is the photograph not correct? Why are you not getting this? So they have been a great support. And of course, there are friends and colleagues in NDTV and other colleagues in the defense beat who have been a great help in getting this done. It's been the most pleasurable job that I've done as a writer, as an author. This is my 4th book, as it was mentioned just now. But it's been the most pleasurable, and I hope it will be equally pleasurable for all of you to read this book, because it tells stories of the Indian soldier, the Indian warrior, Indian air warrior, who gives so much to this nation and asks for nothing but little dignity, understanding from fellow citizens. I hope all of us will have better understanding of the soldier and the job that he does, unsung, unseen, and completely unaware, people completely unaware of their job that is being done at distant places. I end here. I don't want to take much of your time because there are many other people who will give you many exciting stories. But thank you very much again for coming here and making this book possible and coming here and making my day. And in fact, I'll remain ever grateful to all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nitin. I would now like to invite Colonel Narinder Kumar to say a few words. Colonel Kumar is India's most famous military mountaineer and the man who led the first couple of missions to Siachen in 1978 and 81. Colonel Narinder Kumar, please.
General Malik, I'm happy you're wearing the Siachen tie. I can see that. Your Excellency Parthasarthi, my friend Bana Singh, when NDTV made a film on Siachen Glacier, both of us were in that film, but the first time I'm going to meet him. And of course, I'm grateful to Anil Gokhale for having invited me. But he gave me a surprise this morning and said, "Sir, will you say a few words?" So I normally don't talk, but anyway, I have made a small resume, but I can tell you a small story. Actually, what I have to say is already in the book. But those of you who have not read the book, for them it will be useful. In 78, I found that the American maps were showing a wrong line. I took this map to Director General of Military Operations, then General Chibba. I had worked under him. I was surprised. The same map was behind his chair. Having known him, I said, "Sir," I had a dig at him. "How can you safeguard your borders if you do not know where they lie?" He pressed the button, he was too busy. He called his deputy, Brigadier Mehta, and he says, "Take Bull and satisfy him and give him a cup of tea, I know him." So next 2 hours, we went through all the treaties, right from Raja Ranjit Singh, onwards with East India Company and onwards to Shimla Accord and all, and we came to conclusion that this line was wrong. I was taken to General O.P. Malhotra, the Army Chief of Army Staff, and he says, "Colonel Kumar, I'm letting you go only on one promise." I said, "What is that, sir?" He said, "You do not cross even 1 inch from NJ 9842 northwards." Well, I drew my protector, took north reading, and it made my choice for the mountain easy because Termkangri, which we first climbed in 78, lies exactly on that line, north. In that expedition, the Army headquarters asked me which should be the international border. Gentlemen, the AGPL which we are seeing now is drawn by me in 1978. And I thought at that time that the Indian generals, the Pakistani generals and the governments will appreciate that somebody had drawn a sensible ceasefire line. Because so far, the ceasefire line cuts across the villages, rivers and all that. And here it was going along a geographical feature called Saltoro Ridge. But I didn't know I was starting a conflict which had no end. In 1981, for 2 years waiting for the Army headquarters permission, I had put in my papers. I had done what I have to do in the Army. So I was going out, and I got my 6 months leave pending retirement. At that time, there was no encashment. And I was about to go on this leave when the orders came from the Army headquarters that expedition was going to Indira Accord. Now, as I had started the whole thing, it was my proposal. I said, I'll sacrifice my leave. and decided to go on that. But before I go, my doctor came to me, sir, you have to sign this certificate that you are going on your own risk because you are permanent medical category C, not to be posted at high altitude. Well, this was a small sacrifice to make for the nation. I signed on the dotted line and I went there. In 1981, I divided my part into 3 parts. I took the easiest part myself, that is skiing up to the Indra Col. I got a little more difficult to my 2HE, Major Chopra of Siachen. And another officer was given a task to climb Saltoro Kangri, which is the highest peak in the eastern Karakoram. After skiing up to Indra